Alles klar. Ich bin bewaffnet mit dem Übersetzer für den Not der Nöte. Für die Not der Nöte. Und hier sind wir beim letzten Mal stehen geblieben. Wir sind stehen geblieben bei Kapitel 4, wo es dann hoffentlich auch dann ins Reading DLC geht. Entweder mittendrin oder danach. Wir werden sehen. Wir kommen jetzt weiter in die Zukunft, nachdem wir ja im letzten Kapitel, am Ende des letzten Kapitels quasi das Hauptspiel durchgespielt haben. Und wir unsere gemeinsame Zukunft mit Kaff quasi schon vor Augen hatten und uns dafür entschieden haben, gemeinsam in die Zukunft zu gehen und dass wir es gemeinsam schaffen werden, dass uns nichts trennen kann. Und jetzt geht's weiter in der Zwischenzeit, was halt in der Zwischenzeit jetzt passiert ist, bis jetzt. Wir reisen ein wenig in die Zukunft. And so, your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you'd moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with pets, gleich mehrere Haustiere. You lived with Kaff and his fish. Hier können wir uns jetzt entscheiden, ob wir jetzt mit Kaff schon zusammenleben. Also ich finde, es ist schon längst überfällig. Lived with Kaff, his fish and the pet you picked. Lived with Kaff, his fish and the pets you picked. Weißt du was? Ich möchte keine weiteren Haustiere haben. Aber mit Kaff und seinen Fisch, ja. Juhu! And you worked at a fine company, had a business of your own. Ich wollte Künstler werden hier. Co-owned a business with Kaff. Ich glaube nicht. Ich glaube, dafür gehen unsere Interessen zu sehr auseinander. Had multiple ways of earning income. We're still focused on pursuing education. Hier, wir haben unser eigenes Business. Wir sind selbstständig. Ey. Obwohl die Zusammenarbeit mit Kaff bestimmt auch sehr interessant wäre. Vielleicht haben wir ja zusammen ein Business. Vielleicht hat sich ja ein bisschen was entwickelt. Vielleicht ist ja irgendwas entstanden. Nein, das kann ich mir nicht vorstellen. Ich kann es mir einfach nicht vorstellen. Nee, ich habe schon eine eigene Selbstständigkeit. Ich könnte es mir einfach nicht vorstellen, mit meinem Partner zusammenzuarbeiten. Das könnte ich nicht. Ja. In the music industry, art industry. Juhu! Geil! Yes! Was gibt's noch? Aber hier, Art. Das ist unser Ray. Fashion Industry, Writing Industry, TV and Movie Industry, Sporting Industry, oh, da würde ich Kaff sehen. Gaming Industry, oh, Streamer, Hospitality Industry, Health Industry, Education Field, STEM Field. Hier, Art, wir sind Künstler. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your mom's and Kaff's father still lived in the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends. Though, of course, things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of this name to use Gott, wie wird das ausgesprochen im Englischen? Scheiße. Wie wird ein Y im... Oh Gott, warte mal. Wie wird das ausgesprochen? Ich weiß gar nicht mehr. Warte. Warte. Nee, halt. Kann ich das hören? Warte, ich muss umstellen. Warte mal kurz. Warte mal kurz. Ein Augenblick. Warte. Nein, ich will die Sprachausgabe fürs Englische haben, nicht fürs Deutsche. Mano. Ich krieg nur die Sprachausgabe fürs Deutsche. Mann! Den Buchstabensimulacrum. Das Y. Wie wird das Y im Englischen ausgesprochen? Es geht gerade tatsächlich um ein Wort. Es geht nur um Buchstaben. Y. Okay, danke schön. Y. Danke. Oh, danke schön. And switch the spelling of this name to use a Y instead of an I. Dankeschön. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Derek was busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. One person who did disappear into the shuffle of memories inside your mind was Baxter. Nein! Baxter, what? After his vacation in Sunset Bird 1 year, he was just gone. Oh, Gott sei Dank. Oh, you had never truly counted him as a close friend for. Gott sei Dank. Oh, ich dachte schon, Baxter kommt jetzt wieder zurück. Oh, dann hätte ich aber meine Eifersuchtsmiete wieder ausgepackt. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cuff Holden. Your deep affection for him was something that continued to last unabated over the years. But hopefully you would commit to each other even more someday. You didn't want your relationship to change from what it was. Aber Veränderung ist wichtig. And the two of you got changed. He was your fiance. Oh Gott. Und da haben wir wieder ein Wort. He was your fiance. Engaged, nicht engaged. Was sage ich denn? Oh mein Gott! Oh mein Gott! Stimmt, engaged, nicht engaged. Ach Mann, siehst du, weil ich falsch gelesen habe. Wir sind verlobt! Wir können verlobt sein! Oh mein Gott, ja! 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 Woohoo! The past years were certainly busy. You will never forget the moment the love you had for one another was let out in the open. Haven't you wore rings to signify your relationship? Warte mal. Der Heiratsantrag, ne? Den erleben wir ja nicht. Den bekommen wir jetzt nur erzählt. Hätten wir das erleben können? Wenn ich jetzt gesagt hätte, wir sind jetzt nicht verlobt? Verdammt! Ich muss das Spiel privat irgendwann selber nochmal spielen. Weil ich hätte den Heiratsantrag ehrlich gesagt gerne so in der Geschichte richtig miterlebt. Aber okay. Haven't you wore rings to signify your relationship? Cuff wore an engagement ring to signify your relationship. You wore an engagement ring to signify your relationship. However, you decided against getting rings to signify that part of your relationship. Ich glaube, ersteres bedeutet, wir haben es geplant, ne? Wir haben einfach für uns beide Ringe gekauft und es einfach so festgelegt. Was ich sehr unromantisch finde. Ach nee, wore heißt nur tragen. Okay. Wir tragen die Ringe einfach. Okay, okay, okay. Nur Cuff trägt einen Ring. Ich trage einen Ring. Und wir sind gegen Ringe. Bin ich mir gerade nicht so sicher. Wenn ich das erste nehme, habe ich ein Problem. Dann habe ich nämlich schon einen Gedankengang. Wenn ich jetzt ersteres nehme, würde das bedeuten, wir haben für uns beide gegenseitig Ringe gekauft. Was aber wiederum bedeutet, dass der Heiratsantrag keine Überraschung war, sondern von uns beiden einfach geplant. So nach dem Motto, so, wir verloben uns jetzt, ab zum Juwelier. Voll unromantisch. Bei der zweiten und dritten Option kann ich mir wenigstens denken, okay, da gab es wenigstens eine Überraschung. Da war der Heiratsantrag wenigstens überraschend. Und nicht, komm, wir machen jetzt. Beim Letzteren könnte ich mir das vielleicht auch vorstellen. Weiß ich nicht. Ich bin ganz traditionell. Wenn ich Kaff heirate, und ich hoffe, ich kann es mir dann auch aussuchen an der Stelle, werde ich seinen Namen annehmen. Deshalb bin ich auch hier in dem Falle ganz traditionell und konservativ. Da haben wir das Wort wieder. Und dann trage ich den Ring. In Zeichen unserer Verlobung. Juhu! He'd truly thrived in his continued efforts and cultivating loving and supportive relationships with his family and friends. His personality had changed, becoming more reserved, though not at all unkind. Kaff was a gentle, loyal, considerate man. Wie oft habe ich mir so einen Mann selber gewünscht? Who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. Oh mein Gott, wie sehr wünsche ich mir so einen Mann in meinem Leben. When Kaff eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it ended up being a surprise to most based on his past interests. He went to college to study marine biology. Was ist Marine Biology? Oh Gott. Meeresbiologie. Oh. Oh, schön. His ultimate goal was set on becoming a natural resource technician, and he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. Oh, schön. As an adult, Kaff also was able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Kaff he always was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. Aww. Meeresbiologie, Ozean, Fische und so Zeug. Ich weiß, was Meeresbiologie ist. Alles gut. Aber Dankeschön, ich war leider mit dem Übersetzen schneller. War schneller mit dem Eintippen. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. And the whole life continued its steady beat forward, and you all went with it down the paths you chose. It was strange and wonderful. But no matter how old you got, how far you roamed, or how long you were away, the home you had in Sunset Bird still called you back eventually. Ah, jetzt tauchen wir ein. The car rumbled down the highway. You had started to zone out when a truck in the left lane loudly zoomed past. Your driver didn't remark on it, just like anything else this trip. You went back to staring out the window, letting the scenery pass you by. You did appreciate the spacious backseat of your ride. You hadn't known exactly when you would be coming in, so you had decided to use a ride app rather than ask your moms to pick you up. It had turned out to be a convenient choice. You looked forward to surprising your parents at the door. You smiled at the thought of their faces lighting up. Luckily, this hadn't been that big of a trip for you. You lived close enough that the travel hadn't turned into a big production. However, that didn't make the occasion mundane. For once, your moms had decided to have a modest celebration dinner for their anniversary. Ooh! Unlike when you were growing up and they preferred not to make a big deal out of it, this year they were comfortable having a party. As time went on, they had found being the center of attention easier to handle. You were happy to see it. With this going on, there was no way that either you or Liz would miss your mom's anniversary. Both of you made plans to come back home for it. You didn't hear from Liz about her exact schedule, but you hadn't shared yours either. It reminded you of when you were kids and both knew to show up for dinner, but didn't keep each other in the loop for each other's pre-dinner plans. This was the same concept after all. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was definitely different from when you would see your sister every day and knew sort of what she was doing anyways from osmosis. Today, you had no idea. Things were always changing. You mused on how at times it was hard to believe you didn't live with your parents anymore, and yet you also couldn't imagine going back and living as a kid under their rules. The rest of the drive flew by. Your silent driver provided a smooth ride. No sharp turns or hard stops jostled you out of your own head. Ich bin ziemlich gespannt, wie dann die Wohnung von mir in Kaff aussieht. Freue ich mich schon drauf. Your thoughts turned from introspective to observant. The landscape passing by became more and more familiar. You frequently recognized the landmarks that dotted the area. A grin came to your face as you passed the now entering sign for Sunset Bird. Excitement built within you. You were really here. You were doing this. Your driver turned off on a street and you realized that their map program was taking you the way home that Ma preferred. You usually would have used the other side street to pass by the beach. In no time at all, the car had gone through the whole of town and pulled in front of your mom's condo. The car slowed to a stop and parked. With the buzz of the highway gun, you realized that also wir realisieren hier sehr viel. You realized that you could hear the familiar sound of waves. The air smelled like salt and a rush of childhood memories flooded back. You started to gather your things and humming to yourself once more about how happy your moms would be to see you. After that, you'd notify everyone else that you'd made the trip safely. You pulled over your suitcase from the other seat and yanked at your bag from down near your feet. Tap, tap. You started at the sudden sound of tapping on glass. It caused you to pause. Did you really hear what you thought you did? You weren't entirely sure because you soon heard about something else. The window on the opposite oder opposite? Scheiße. Opposite. Opposite was, ne? On the opposite side of the car rolling down. It confused you until you put it together that despite the driver's silence, you weren't actually alone in this car. The driver must have pressed the button. Someone had to be there. You turned your head to face the now open window. Natürlich! Ja! Darauf habe ich gewartet. There he was! Leaning his arms across the window, your fine scarf holding. Ja, unser Verlobter! He beamed at you with one of his precious open smiles. Oh.
Jamie!
Yo! Seine Stimme, ich hab sie so vermisst. Welcome home. I was wondering how long I'd have to stand out here for you to make it. It's been a while, you know. Calf, I've been the one waiting to see you. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. You survived. You screamed excitedly. You said, yeah! Yeah! Natürlich! He laughed at the reaction. You could see the car's driver raise an eyebrow from the rear view mirror, but didn't let it stop you. Nein! Ich würde am liebsten aus dem Auto springen! He then gripped the top of the car door and pushed half of his torso through the opening. That was enough to make the driver break their silence with a sharp, "Hey!" Calf did not seem to notice and continued climbing in through the window. He pushed one hand down into the middle seat to prop his dangling body up. He used his other hand to caress your cheek as he leaned in as close as he could. I missed you. You scooched across the seats and kissed him on the lips. You leaned over and kissed him on the forehead. You covered his hand with yours. You flicked his nose. You did your best to hug him without knocking him down. You grinned at him. Natürlich Kuss! Juhu! He enthusiastically reciprocated. Ich muss das mal kurz reinschmeißen. Meine Güte, was ein Wort. Okay, gut. Wie auch immer man es ausspricht. The arm holding him wobbled at your touch, and you could feel him smile under your smooch. He was clearly struggling to avoid falling down onto the cushion. You pulled back just a little to get a better view of his face. Ah, I missed you. I love you. Okay, now get out of the window, you crazy person. You're so cute. I really should have expected this. You and your windows. Stimmt, es ist halt wieder mal ein Fenster. I love you. I love you too. His voice was soft, a sincere whisper. You could tell he meant it as desperately as you did. Calf's smile turned awkward as his arms started to bend lower, causing his body to slide downwards with it. He turned his head to the driver. Sorry, I'm always causing trouble in this neighborhood. Calf shifted around some more and squirmed back the way he came. After he had successfully pushed off the window and landed on the pavement with a thump, you opened your car door. You threaded your arm through the various straps of your bags and climbed out. Calf took a few long strides around the back of the car and quickly met you on your side. Calf stood in front of you, and it struck you that the two of you were back in Sunset Bird, reunited once again on this street. Ah! You jumped into his arms! Yoo-hoo! You gave him a friendly punch. You shuffled his hair. You held your hand out for a high. You held your hand out for a fist bump. You waved shyly at him. Yeah! Natürlich, wir springen in seine Arme! Juhu! But you put down your luggage first. And you were still holding your... Nein! Erstmal hier Sachen runterlegen. Juhu! You dropped your bags on the paved road and got a bounding start to leap into Kaff. He caught you unsurprised at your reaction. At your action. When you were situated, he leaned back on the balls of his heels and fully lifted you off the ground. His goofy grin let you know just how much he was enjoying your enthusiastic embrace. He didn't have a problem holding you up. His especially large head allowed him to lift you well off the ground. Ich frage mich, wenn wir uns besonders groß und schwer gemacht hätten und Kaff bearbeitet hätten, besonders klein und schmächtig, ob hier jetzt was anderes stehen würde. Ob hier dann stehen würde, wir haben ihn zerquetscht oder so. Wäre irgendwie lustig. Muss ich irgendwie mal privat ausprobieren. With one last swing, he let you back down. You really were ecstatic to be around him again and absolutely thrilled that it was here on this town where you were together. Even if it had only been a short time since you had seen him off, you had still missed Kaff greatly. It somehow felt a lot longer. Given your 1, 2, 3. Given your different schedules and travel availabilities, it had worked out better for Kaff to head out to Sunset Bird first. He only arrived the evening before, however, and secured the hotel room. Until now, you'd better had to deal with that inconvenience of being in a tourist-heavy area. It was a fight to get a place to stay close by during the heat of the summer vacation season. Living without him at your place was strange. Kaff was basically a part of you at this point. You were glad to feel whole again. Oh, yeah! Oh. You idly shifted your luggage. Then it struck you that you were short one. You got out in such a hurry it was left behind. You reached back into the car to pull it out. Kaff stood aside as you made a dash for the door. You shouldered the small bag and felt relief that you would be able to brush your teeth tonight. Got everything this time? You stood up straight, everything truly gathered up and out of the car. You gave the backseat one last glance and then nodded. Kaff shut the car door after you had moved out of the way. The two of you stepped off the street to give the driver some room. Kaff raved. Sorry again. The driver said nothing and drove off. With the road clear, you let your gaze drift across the neighborhood that you had known forever. It was such a small place to spend so many days. You were flooded with memories of going up and down the street during every stage of your life. Being a little kid, following your big sister to the playground, becoming a teen and staying out later, and growing into an adult who left their parents' house behind to be independent. You could feel the summer sun on your skin from all the times you headed out to the beach. You saw the same surroundings that you as a young adult did when leaving home. It was hard to quantify the amount of history you had here. And now you were back. Despite taking in the neighborhood again, you never lost awareness of Kaff's presence. From the corner of your eye, seeing him, there was a very familiar sight as well. So many of your memories included him. Oh. Your mind drifted from the neighborhood itself to the person who used to live there. You couldn't help the feeling of nostalgia. You still remembered his face, his voice, the scar on his arm from days long gone. He had changed so much since you had first met him. Yet, even with those changes, he was always recognizable. Oh. He was familiar like the sky was. Oh! In the way you knew the sea. Every day they may appear different, but they are still an inextricable part of life. Oh, jetzt wird's schön symbolisch wieder. Oh, ich liebe es. It was the world, with help from Mr. Halden and his ill-thought $20 bill, that brought you together to begin with, but the two of you had chosen each other. You had never let your interactions fade. You had decided to nurture your relationship into what it was. And you would continue to keep Kav close into all the rest of your adult years. Ha! He was the love of your life. Yeah! Your wonderful fiance. Yeah! The day when you would be officially married couldn't come soon enough. Ja! Oh Gott! Ich erlebe gerade multiple Orgasmen. He was the one you wanted to keep spending year after year with, as you'd done for years before this. Oh yeah! It would be impossible to imagine life without him. Kav noticed you staring at him after a while and smiled with his eyebrows rising in curiosity. He was very transparent in his question if there was something you wanted to say. You shook your head and returned him a soft expression. You'd let yourself get carried away in a tide of memories, but now it was time to focus on the present. No time like now. Let's go see my mom's. Kav nodded and then pointed at all your luggage bundled around your legs. Can I help with any of that? Yeah, thank you. You can help with all of it. No, it's like carrying in all my groceries in one go. No, the house is literally right there. No, you'd drop them. Boah, wie gemein. Ach komm. Juhu. You gratefully passed him a bag. It was a lot easier to balance everything with that out of the way. He used both hands to take hold of the one piece of luggage and stood tall, pleased to be able to provide his assistance. The bag situation resolved, the two of you strolled over to the Austin residence store. You started to pat your pockets instinctively, only to realize that you no longer carried a key to the house. Your eyes scanned the entryway, a little lost, only to spy the doorbell. The thought of having to ring it felt super weird. As you pressed the inconveniently placed button on the side wall, you remembered that no matter how much this place would always be a home to you, it wasn't where you lived. Being back here was like putting on a uniform after you quit the store where it came from. It had remained the same, but your circumstance had changed. Kav shifted on his feet awkwardly, obviously also thrown about you being stuck out here keyless. You heard muffled voices and shuffling around from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. The door swung open and there was your mom's smiling face. She immediately brightened at seeing you standing there. Well. Mom twisted her head back and gave a shout down the hall. Lenny, guess who's here? There were more distant noises, no Dapma getting up from wherever she was to come see. Her high-spirited words rang out clearly. I hope it's one of my children! Mom sniggered, still holding the door only half open to hide you for a little longer. Ka flushed as if suddenly realizing that he was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastic welcoming of you. You smiled to reassure him that he wasn't intruding. Ma finally reached the door and peered over Mom's shoulder. It is! Hello, Jamie! Oh, was ein schönes Outfit. She gave you a once-over, patting the tops of your shoulders and moving down the sides of your arms, before she nodded in satisfaction that you were in one piece.
How sweet.
This is a wonderful surprise. Ma inclined her head to Kaf next, not leaving him out either. Hello, sweetie. You count as one of my kids at this point anyways. I have double the surprise today.
Yeah.
You grinned at your parents and lauded. You missed their presence so much. Kaf bashfully waved at them. He hadn't relaxed fully, but he had settled down at their welcome. Well, don't just stand out there. Come on in. Your mom moved aside and held the door open for you, gesturing for you to enter. You stepped into the living room. It was comfortable and cool. Kaf was a half step behind you, his eyes on a new painting your mom's must have added since the last time you were here. Things were mostly the same, but there were more decorations since you had seen the house last. Mom may have gotten the urge for some interior designing again. It struck you how odd it was to be the guest, only observing their choices for the living space here, rather than a full-time occupant. Ma came up in front of you, excitement in her eyes. I'm so glad you are here.
That's fine.
You know your mom and I would have been happy to pick you up, but you are self-sufficient and responsible. That's okay. What matters is that you arrived safely. Mom appeared at her side with a nod. Welcome back, kiddos. You appreciated that your parents respected you as an adult, even if Mom still called you kiddo. You figured long ago that you'd always be her kiddo no matter how grown you became. It was part of the whole parent-child deal with her. You hugged your moms, you grinned, you took your mom's hands, you gave them a thumbs up. Hier, wir umarmen! You took another step forward and pulled Mom and Ma into a great big hug, squeezing them tight. Their arms wrapped around you in return, and you could feel their love for you in their embrace. I'm happy to be here. I missed you both. It's so great to see you. I wanted to surprise you. I thought you deserved a little break after everything I put you through. You enjoyed the movement. Yeah. Yoo-hoo! Of course. It's always nice when I'm able to come by. Your mom's giggled, pleased. So, how's it been? I hope you've been good. Getting enough excitement and all that. Speaking of exciting things, your anniversary dinner. Is everything all set for that?
No problem.
We're happy to help if there's something we can do. We have been plenty fine. It's been a little quiet, but that's not a bad thing. Mom placed her arm around Ma's shoulder and gave her a side tug. Aww.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about the party. We're just planning to eat at the Cypress, nothing fancy. Which is kind of a funny thing to say about a pretty fancy country club. The biggest issue has just been making sure everyone could make it for the day. Speaking of which, Liz will be arriving tonight. We are planning on picking her up later. I guess Liz isn't as grown up as Jamie. Mom snickered at her own joke and Ma lightly elbowed her with a barely hidden grin.
Shush.
As I was saying, she could drop you off wherever you are staying if you don't mind waiting for that. I'm sorry, there's not space for you in the house. It's gotten crowded in those odd rooms since you and Liz moved out. I don't know where all this stuff keeps coming from. Sure you don't, Pamela. It's okay. Kav already has a hotel room. I'm gonna be staying in anyway. Kav sent you some pictures of the place when he arrived. Stylish and roomy. It seemed very nice. It was a double room. It was a room with a single king bed. Ein Doppelzimmer. Warum soll es ein Doppelzimmer sein? Kav und ich sind verlobt. Hallo? Es war ein Raum mit einem schönen... Was ist ein Kingbett? Ist das ein normales Doppelbett? Warte mal. Ich glaube, das finde ich nur bei Google. Es könnte auch ein Markenname sein. Ein Eigenname. Kingbed. Ja. Kingbed ist einfach eine andere Bezeichnung für Doppelbett. Okay. Gut zu wissen, weiß ich Bescheid. Aber habe ich mir schon gedacht. Juhu! He'd claimed that the bed was comfortable, so you had high hopes about that. Though mostly you were looking forward to having him next to you as you slept once again. Ja, natürlich! Your mom smiled, relieved. Kyra's already here, isn't she? She directed her question at Kav. He bobbed his head a bit to go along with his reply. Yeah, I heard she made it. She's gonna be staying with Dad while she's in town.
Oh.
Have you gone over and said hello yet? Kav chuckled self-consciously, and this time he shook his head. You raised an eyebrow since you had figured he would have taken the chance while waiting for you. Not yet. I should go do that now. I just wanted Jamie to be there too. He caught your eyes with an adoring smile. Mom laughed at that, no doubt thinking that Kav was sweet but ridiculous.
Oh, nice.
It's nice to know your priorities. Yeah. Kav awkwardly rubbed his arm and shifted on his feet, looking all too much like he did as a kid.
So?
Oh, so? Wow, Kav, diese männliche Stimme. Hallo, hallo. Jamie, do you want to go over to my house now? That's a good idea. We won't be leaving until late evening. Yeah, let's go for it. Kav perked back up, excited once more. We will keep an eye on your things while you're out. There's no reason to be carrying all that around. You set down your bags in the living room, tucked into a corner where they wouldn't be in the way. Kav helped. Your moms waved the two of you off as you walked back to the entranceway. Thanks. See you soon. You waved back and opened the front door for Kav. With that, you were on your way to see Kav's family next. This trip put a special little pep in Kav's steps as you crossed the street to his dad's house together. Your spirits were equally high. Doing this, you felt like a teen again. You had known Kav's parents for a long time now, when it came to what you called his dad. You still stuck with the familiar classic Mr. Holden. You switched back to saying Kav's dad. You were on a first-name basis with Cliff. You'd been waiting for the right time to call him dad. Oh my god, you felt that could be now. Oh my god! Oh mein Gott! Ui. Ui, ui, ui. Das ist tatsächlich eine Sache, die ich persönlich nie könnte. Wenn ich mit meinem Partner schon länger zusammen wäre und wir wären schon verlobt und wären auf dem Weg zur Hochzeit und. Ich könnte meine Schwiegereltern niemals Mom und Dad nennen. Niemals, nie und nimmer. ich weiß nicht, das würde ich nicht über die Lippen bringen. Das würde ich nicht können irgendwie. Liegt aber auch daran, dass ich selber sehr reserviert bin bei sowas. Bei sowas bin ich immer sehr so... Ja. Was andere Bindungen außer die Liebe angeht, bin ich sehr... Nein, 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 nein. Da bin ich dann sehr abtauchend. Deshalb, ich glaube, das ist für mich der right way. So. Wir nennen ihn Cliff. Although it was awkward on your tongue at first, it rolled off comfortably now. You appreciated how much he saw you as an adult and friend and not just the kid from across the street. For his mom, you were still on a first-name basis with Kyra. You called her mom 3 in a non-serious way. You'd been waiting for the right time to call her mom. Das mittlere weiß ich nicht. Da muss ich gerade Übersetzer auspacken. You called mom 3 in a non mit Bindestrich serious way. Du hast sie in einer nicht ernsthaften Art und Weise Mutter 3 genannt. Ah, so. Weiß ich, das finde ich auch lustig. You called her mom 3 in a non-serious way. Fände ich funny. Aber ja, wie gesagt, ich bin sehr reserviert. Wir nennen sie weiterhin Kyra. She always preferred that even when you were still just a kid. Honestly, you couldn't imagine calling her anything else. Cuff hopped up to the front door and didn't bother knocking. He twisted the knob and it swung open. With a grin, Cuff gave you a gratified thumbs up. You shook your head in disapproval, but you both knew that you hypocritically supported this behavior. Your dad is lucky we aren't criminals. He brushed your comment. Achso, okay, ich bin gerade stecken geblieben. He brushed your comment aside and ran right into his old home. Ich hab was ganz anderes im Kopf gehabt, als das, was ich gelesen habe. Cliff was there, standing in his kitchen and babysitting a pen on the stuff. Was? Er sieht jünger aus als vorher. Was? Cuffs Vater sieht jünger aus als im letzten Kapitel. Hat er eine Verjüngerungskur gemacht? Was? Vielleicht hat er sich auch in eine Kryokapsel gelegt und die haben ihn erst vor kurzem wieder aufgetaut. Der sieht jünger aus als vorher einfach. Diese Anti-Aging-Creme will ich auch haben. Wow. His head turned at the sound of footsteps, and he brightened instantly at the sight of you both. Cuff matched his enthusiasm instantly. If it was anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. But since you knew what Cuff was actually like as a kid, you were aware this level of happiness with Cliff was definitely not equivalent to any childhood feelings of this. Dad! Cuff! Cliff gracelessly pushed what he was cooking to a different burner and flipped off the heat. He rushed over to you both. Cuff flew forward and met him halfway in a hug. Cuff squished his eyes shut and held his dad in the tight hug. Cliff soothingly rubbed his son's back. The more of an adult Cuff became, the more he turned into a big daddy's boy, it seemed. I missed you. I miss you too. It was sweet, and teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them at this place in their relationship after years of struggling to connect. Es war wirklich ein Struggle. Oh. Aber die Jahre haben sich gelohnt zu kämpfen. When the hug broke, Cliff hooked an arm around his son's neck. He let out a deep laugh. I still can't believe you outgrew me. I really thought I had that one on him after he graduated from high school, but then he had to keep going. Chuckling, he shook his fist in mocked anger. Cuff ducked his head and lauded in kind. Sorry, Dad. Cuff's cheeks turned pink, and he averted his eyes. He was becoming bashful, so you knew he had more he wanted to say. Cuff softly added, But I was raised really well. His dad's expression instantly crumbled with emotion. He sniffled. Cuff put an arm around him too and tucked him into a side hug. You observed their little reunion fondly, happy to let them enjoy their moment. They were a perfect pair of sentimentality. Cliff eventually turned his attention to you.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie. So great to see you. He pulled away from Cuff and approached you with a little wave. He was back to his cheery self. Hi, Cliff. Cliff, it's so nice to see you. I missed you, Cliff. You didn't say anything. Yeah, off. You raved, you offered him a high five, you gave his arm a pat, you hugged him, you smiled. A high five? Ich glaube bei ihm hier High Five. You raised your hand, knowing that Cliff wouldn't leave you hanging. Exuberant, he slapped your hand without missing a beat. I missed seeing your face around here. Thank you. Cliff cleared his throat, pulling attention to himself. He crossed his arms. But before we get too carried away, it's not a real reunion yet. Kyra's still in the guest suite. I'll go get her. He eagerly bolted down the hall, and you could hear every step he took. It ended with a distinct knock. Kyra, they are here! It was only seconds before there was the sound of a door being yanked open. The pounding of feet hitting the wood floor grew even louder this time.
My baby.
Yoo-hoo! Next to you, Cuff let out a nervous laugh. His parents entered the living room and Kyra stretched her arms out wide when she spotted you both. Cuff ran to her easily. You went in for a hug too. You opened your own arms up for a big hug. You raised your arms up to pass. You shook your head no. Ja. Große Umarmung. She held you both tightly in her arms and you squeezed her back with nearly the same intensity. You felt loved. Bei ihr habe ich schon das Gefühl, da kann man richtig umarmen. Cuff wrapped his free arm around her too. He rested his head on top of hers and let out a happy sigh. After a moment, Kyra let go and pulled back to get a better look at your faces. She surveyed every inch of them and appeared satisfied. You're both looking well. That's wonderful and just what I like to see.
Thanks.
Thanks, and hi, Mom. You look great too, Kyra. One day soon, I'll let you in on my secrets. Kyra winked, and you had zero doubts that she held precious knowledge to looking your best. She was stunning every time you saw her. I'd be honored. Das habe ich gerade gesagt. So, you put your hands on your hips, your gaze sliding from one to the other. How have you both been doing since I last saw you? Any good stories? Kyra have a nod for Cliff to go first. Cheerfully, he waved a hand.
No worries.
Same old. Still got the shop, still got my friends and family, of course. And still the most exciting thing around here is seeing who will rent that one free condo. Incredible! I always knew you were such a snore. They sniggered and you couldn't help but peek at Kav. He rolled his eyes dramatically, drawing out a few giggles from you, but the whole time there was still a happy smile fixed on his face.
Well,
For me, things have been good. I've gotten a lot of interesting assignments lately. Oh, I recently went to Seattle and... Kyra twirled a strand of her hair shyly, and her mouth curved into a grin. Whatever she was thinking about, it made her happy. Things have still been going well with that guy from work, but it's a little early to bring him all the way out to California to meet a family. Kav crossed his arms. He and his dad nodded. It was clear she appreciated their acceptance from her two boys. That's great. I'm really happy for you. I hope he gets the seal of approval when he does come around. You silently nodded as well. 3 identical nods across the board. Kara's grin grew ear to ear before she shook her head and in amusement. So that's us. And do you two have plans for your first day back? The only thing I have to do is pick up Liz later tonight before we head back to our hotel room.
Great.
He suddenly looked over his shoulder, his eyebrows pushed together. I'm glad you are here, but I just remembered that I was in the middle of cooking something. Only a small cackle escaped you while you thought of the giant grin taking over your face. Meanwhile, Kav erupted into laughter that had his dad shaking his head. That's fine, Dad. Go salvage what you can. I think it do be nice to explore the old neighborhood for a while anyway, since we've got the time. Kav directed the last part to you as he spoke, hoping that you'd want to go with him. Yeah, definitive. You nodded automatically. You were already looking forward to it. That's a perfect idea.
makes sense.
I think so too. You should go enjoy the day. I hang back here so I won't be at third reel. And someone's gotta keep an eye on Cliff before he catches the whole kitchen on fire. Mom, you're not the third reel. Kav stiffly stuck his arms against his side like a little child. A small smirk tugged at Kyra's mouth. She winked. You know what I mean. Have a good walk. I'll see you both later. Cheerily, Cliff waved before going back to his cooking. Kav smiled warmly.
Bye.
We will be back. Bye. Kav trailed behind you as you walked into the welcoming summer sun. He stopped, closing his eyes to stretch his arms in the warm rays. Satisfied, Kav turned to you and carefully took your hand in his. The heat of that was better and more comforting than any ray of sunlight that could shine on you today. Oh, God! Stepping closer, you squeezed his hand, your mouth curved into a playful smile. Lucky for you, I needed help carrying that hand. Let's go! Naturally, you found yourself heading down the road towards the beach. Your spirits rose even higher as you strolled across the sand, heading for the shopping district. Arriving, you rode past tourists who were taking in the sights for the very first time. Being a local was a badge of honor you wore proudly. You casually walked past the shops. Over the years, some had closed down, but many of the stalls were still exactly the same as they were when you were little. Cuff snapped his head as far as it could go to one side. Too dramatically, you couldn't have missed it. Something clearly caught his eye, but you couldn't see it.
Please?
There's a pretzel stand open today. Can we get one? When his gaze found you again, he wore the biggest smile. You chuckled. Yeah, we can. You don't need to ask for my permission. Of course you can, but I don't want one thaw. You nodded happily. Yeah, we can. You fondly thought about retracing your previous thaw. Cuff was beaming now. You are gonna get the one that comes with the little frosting cup, aren't you? That's right. After that, you both happily made your way over, being pulled in faster by the delicious aroma of the stall. With that, you changed course to the pretzel stand for a snack break. Cuff was very pleased by the morsel he picked up, and that was good to see. The sun arched across the sky as you went up and down the road as a pier. By the time you returned to the beach, day was beginning to fade into night. Cuff kicked his shoes off, tossing them into the sand. He wanted to get his feet wet in the waves as fast as possible. You joined him. Das war ein No-Brainer. In seconds you had your feet free and your shoes abundant in the sand. You kept going until you were ankle deep in the water. Cuff sighed contentedly. You followed his line and sighed to the setting sun, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. It really feels like summer now. There were a bent smile when he turned to you. The light illuminated like a halo behind him, and the sight took your breath away. In fact, it's hard to think of anything that feels more perfectly summer than moments exactly like this. Being here at sunset in Sunset Bird with you. I'm so glad we were able to come visit. I do like our living situation now over just being neighbors, but still. Agreeing with Cuff, you made an okay sign with one hand. You felt your heart flutter in your chest. Ooh! Your smile quickly stretched ear to ear. I'm happy too. Of course, we would have ended up like this again, sooner or later. This is a wonderful day. I guess it's not too bad being back in the old neighborhood. You didn't have to say anything. Ah. You felt elated. You couldn't wait to pick up Liz and be surrounded by your family again. Cuff murmured quietly, losing himself in his thoughts again. Shortly after, you saw his hand shoot down into the sand. He stood straight back up with a lopsided smile and go to work brushing the sand off his prize. You knew without a single word, Cuff found a new shell for your collection. Yoo-hoo! As you wandered down the beach, Cuff followed at your side in comfortable silence. Your shadows stretched across the sand like they were leading the way. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking into the shore. For a moment in time, it felt like there were only the two of you in your own little world. Eventually, the bubble popped when you realized that your phone was going off. It was Ma, hoping that you were going to be back soon. Curious, Cuff's eyes slid down to your phone. You let your hand fall back down to your side. You held the phone pressed against the palm of your hand. It's Ma. She wants to know when we will be there. Cuff stretched the back of his neck and shook his head. His mouth twitched like he just had a funny thought. Dang parents, always trying to make us come home before it gets too dark. You lauded? There's no escape from curfew as long as we are in this neighborhood. Parents are such a pain. It sucks that we have to leave already. Don't act like a little kid. You're shrugged. You'd think after all this time they'd know that we always find our way home. I think she knows. She's probably just excited to spend time with you. Think so? Yeah, if I was her, I'd be missing you too. Ooh. After one last glance, you put your phone away again. Cuff gave a small shrug. Ready? Yep. Let's go. Together, you left the beach, feeling the call of home pulling you forward. The both of you run off towards your mom's house, leaving the waves behind but welcoming the beginning of summer. Cuff and you run up from the beach, sand flying from your steps. Cuff made it to the road first, but you managed to catch up to him by the time to reach the house. It wasn't exactly a race, and yet it also wasn't not a competition. Both of you were lauding by the time you bumbled through your old front door together. You inhaled deeply and shouted loud enough to be heard anywhere in the house. We are here! Your moms were seated in the living room. Their eyes sparkled as they locked on you and your light dusting of sand.
Hello.
Welcome home! Mom leaned forward, eyebrows raised at your jubilant entrance. Ma sighed wistfully.
Oh.
That brings back memories. Cuff chuckled shyly as he stretched the back of his head. I hope we are not too late. Nope, you're just in time, but you better start picking it up. Liz will be waiting. Ma nodded as she stood up from her seat. She lightly ran her fingers over her clothes to smooth out the wrinkles. It took you a second to remember where you had put your stuff. You needed to get it all in the car so you could get everything back to your hotel. Can I help? You shrugged and directed him to your bags, with Cuff, your moms and yourself on the job. It only took one trip to the car to get everything. Cuff firmly closed the trunk and you thanked everyone for the assistance. Of course, kiddo. Come along, my family, let's get in the car. She gave Cuff a special look to make it clear to meant him. Cuff climbed into the backseat with a decidedly touched expression on his face. You got in on the other side. When everyone was situated and buckled, the engine was started and Ma pulled out onto the street. You couldn't help but feel amused to be stuck in the backseat with Cuff. Your mom's driving you around. It really was like you were little kids again. Cuff caught you staring at him and gave you a bent smile. He was probably on the same wavelength as you from the sheer mischief in it. There was some light chatting on the drive. No one brought up anything too deep, and it mostly became strapping jokey stories. The entire trip was marked by a heavy sense of anticipation. Everyone was ecstatic to see Liz and hear what she had been up to. When you neared the airport, Mom pulled out her phone to call Liz. Ma followed the signs to the correct pickup area and asked for you to shout if you saw your sister. Yeah, Liz, we are at Ring B. There's a blue sign that says North America.
All right.
Tell her that we are right in front of the building with blue windows. She says that she's outside, right by a yellow truck. I see at least 3 yellow trucks. I think they are doing work at the airport. The back and forth continued, with Ma driving around in the right circular airport road, while Mom attempted coordination between her and Liz's location. Aha! You leaned forward, peering out the front of the car. A tall, poised silhouette pulled a pale purple roll-along suitcase behind her. It was definitely Liz. She waved to the car. Ma parked along the sidewalk next to her, and Mom put her phone away with a cheer. Mission accomplished, team. Ma excitedly reached over to grasp Mom's raised hand, thrilled that both of her kids were back.
Good job.
That's right. Liz came closer and yanked open the back door beside her. She popped her head into the car, her smile ornery despite how tired she appeared. It must have been a long trip for her, yet her expression was that same familiar smirk that you had grown up with.
Hey.
Hello children, I'm back. I've missed you. Rude. Oh, hey, old grandparent who doesn't have any kids. Ich hoffe, das ist als Joke gemeint. Dann würde ich das gerne nehmen.
Rude.
Rude? You shouldn't speak to your elders like that. You smiled at her. You reached over and tugged her. You poked her cheek. You took hold her hand. You shook her head. Yeah. Pop. You quickly unbuckled and then launched yourself at your sister. She wrapped her arms around you and squeezed. Well, hi to you too, kiddo. Hello, sweetie. It's so nice that you are here. Hi, Elizabeth. He jokingly huffed at her. We are not children. Whatever you say, baby boy. She turned her gaze back to Mom and Ma. You really know how to make someone feel appreciated. Her spirits were high. You could tell she was just as happy to be here as everyone was to see her. She left the door open but ducked out to walk around to the back of the car. She opened the trunk and lifted her luggage in. I'm gonna move your trunk, Jamie. I'll keep it in front of my bag so you can get it later. Ma's dropping you off first, right? Yes, but that's not junk. It's important. Liz slammed the trunk closed without responding. Liz swung around to the open door. You noticed that her hair had a few fly arrays, no doubt from a long day of traveling. She leaned against the frame of the car, giving you and Cuff a significant look. I'm not sitting in the middle. I already had 5 hours to have nightmare on the flight. There's no way I'm getting in between the two of you. I mean, really? Who would ever want to be the person pulling Cuff Holden and Jamie Austin apart? Cuff puffed up indignantly yet again at her classic tease of your relationship. Liz continued along like she didn't notice.
So?
I don't care how you decided to scooting. I figure you can fight it out somehow. Cuff glanced over at you and shrugged. He unbuckled his seatbelt and moved to the middle. Thanks, Cuff. I guess I will always have a bossy big sister. I'm sorry you're always in the middle, Cuff. Some people just must get their way. Good job, I wasn't moving. You stayed quiet. Yeah. Always. It's the law. It's more like Liz will never change. Exactly. Why would I need to? With the window seat open, Liz squished herself into the car and shut the door. When everyone was settled, Ma began to pull out.
Let's go.
We are off. Liz crossed her legs, compacting herself slightly. She braced most of her weight on the door behind her instead of sitting up straight. It gave her a little more room. Hopefully we finish the journey. This car is almost as old as we are.
Now.
And it's still just as good as you are. All the complaining definitely means Liz is back. We're equivalent of this junker. To this junker. Hey, I love this old car. You silently watched what was happening outside the window. Ja, wir schauen einfach mal aus dem Fenster. You saw a plane arriving out in the distance. You wondered where it had come from and imagined what all these passengers were here for. Mom turned up the radio as Mom merged onto the highway. The station was familiar, the normal soundtrack for when she had driven you and Liz around town. Liz bounced in her seat, enjoying the classic tune. The song would be odd enough to vote at this point if it was a person. That was hard to believe. With Liz, the conversation livened up despite it getting later and later in the night. She told you all about her week and all the travel preparations that she made. By the time she'd made it to the actual tale and travel itself, Liz started chuckling. On the plane, Liz had sat next to a couple of girls who had talked a lot about how well they could read people. Liz recounted their conversation with her in hilarious detail as they had apparently tried to guess her occupation after only shaking her hand. Neither of the girls could agree with one another and Liz had refused to just tell them. However, the drive to your hotel was only so long. Eventually, your group arrived. You yawned and got out of the car when it stopped. Cuff clambered out after you. Liz gave a loud sigh to relieve at all the extra space she found herself with. You and Cuff grabbed the luggage and then waved off your family after you said your goodbyes. After they left, you and Cuff went to go find your room. Ziemlich schickes Hotelzimmer. Sieht gar nicht so clean aus. Ein bisschen Deko ist schon drin. You scanned the keycard to unlock your hotel room. It sounded out a soft beep and you turned the handle of the door. The door creaked open, then you craned your head in to take a look. The first thing you noticed was the large king-sized bed in the middle of the room. It was a prim, modern-looking space. It seemed clean and smelled faintly like floral air freshener. A smile played on Cuff's face as he watched you take in the space. The bed's nice, huh? Which one of us is gonna use it? You burst out laughing. You glared at him. Are you serious? Here we go again. Me, you can fend yourself. You stared blankly at him. That was a joke. Can we please share the bed? Yes. Thanks. I got a good hotel, didn't I? Yeah, you picked out a nice one. It's passable. I guess we will manage. Thanks for handling this. It says it's nice. I'd say it's nice. It's the same hotel I would have picked on my own. It makes sense you would go for this one. Looks like your room at Kyra's place. You nodded wordlessly in approval. Thanks for handling this. Man bedankt sich aber viel zu selten im Leben. No problem. He beamed, glad to have your appreciation. You and Cuff continued to chat as you settled in. You unpacked some of your stuff and checked out all the room's amenities. Cuff pointed out the mini fridge and started puzzling over what food could be ordered to the room. However, the fact was you both were exhausted. It didn't take too many jaunts before you both changed into your pajamas and called it a day. You had to hunt along the wall to locate a light switch. When you finally found it, you flicked it off with a sense of triumph. You turned your head over to Cuff, who stood behind you in his pajamas. He was cozy and comfortable, but the pieces didn't match. He never minded that. I am exhausted. We both need our beauty rest. Cuff smiled, a soft expression that was adorable.
All right.
Okay, let's go to sleep. Despite saying that it was bedtime, Cuff took a step forward towards you. He wrapped his arms around your back, and you leaned into his embrace. Oh! Then he lifted you off your feet. What? Still not putting you down, Cuff promptly dropped himself backwards. The both of you crashed onto the tight, tucked sheets of the hotel bed. He loved it the entire time. Cuff bounced on the landing and absorbed most of the impact. You lay on his chest, feeling a little jostled. You giggled alongside him. You are an absolute madman, you tease. You could have warned me. That was scary. Let's do it again. You sweated his shoulder for that. Yeah. You shook your head jokingly. His laughter turned into a snort. He smiled up at the ceiling, a thought clearly crystallizing. My dad used to do that kind of thing to me when I was little, sort of. Nostalgia was clear in his voice. It was a fond memory and you felt something warm in your chest. You made a small noise of understanding that turned into a yawn. When Cuff yawned in return, you pulled at the sheets until you were actually under the blankets. Good night, Cuff Night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Sweet dreams. You stuck your tongue out at him playfully. Hey, so do you know why pigeons are called pigeons when they are actually doves? Oh Gott, das muss ich übersetzen. Hilfe. Do you know why... Was sind denn überhaupt Pigeons? Called pigeons when they are actually doves. Weißt du, warum Tauben Tauben genannt werden? Pigeons sind Tauben. Obwohl sie eigentlich Tauben sind? Was? Weißt du, warum Tauben Tauben genannt werden, obwohl sie eigentlich Tauben sind? Könnte ein Joke sein, der im Englischen nur funktioniert, ne? Cuff blinked at your random tanked. You yawned and continued talking, your sleepy brain happy to infodump. Pigeon actually used to refer to a young cheeping bird, not a species like it does now. Cuff nodded along as you continued seeming interested despite the random topic. By the time you finished, he was watching you intently. Ach, das war gar kein Witz. Hallöchen, Fabi. Das war gar kein Witz. Das war nur Klugscheißerei. Oh, nee. Ich dachte, es sollte ein Witz werden hier unten. Nee. Ich habe das falsch interpretiert. Don't let the bugs bite. Ja. Cuff gave you a jokingly dry expression. He gestured his hand out. I did pick this room to the bugless. To be bugless. Then you kissed his lips. Then you kissed his nose. Then you kissed his forehead. Then you ruffled his hair. Then you pinched his cheek. Then you shot him a sleepy grin. Ah. Ew. You shifted yourself closer so that you could lean in. You kissed Kav and felt his lips perk into a smile before kissing you back, obviously enjoying his goodnight kiss. Aww. Kav wrapped his arms around you and you snuggled next to you. He let out a contented breath. You reached out to hold Kav under one arm and then used your other hand to comb through his hair. The two of you relaxed into the other and you knew neither of you would want to be anywhere else. I can't believe we are really here. You and Liz and everyone else are gonna be here in Sunset Bird again. I was staring at all the scenery going by while we were driving here, and it honestly felt like we never left. He ran a hand down his face. I mean, in some ways it feels like it's been ages and everything's different. Some of that is definitely cause I'm staying at a hotel instead of being in my room at Dad's. But yeah. So weird. It feels natural to me. I don't even know how I feel. It's exciting. I just hope things go okay. You couldn't even put anything you felt into words. Ich weiß immer, was zu sagen. Aber ist gerade schwierig. Wie fühlt es sich an, wenn man seit einer langen Zeit nicht mehr bei der Family war und dann wieder zurückkommt? Könnte es sich schon merkwürdig anfühlen. Nav nodded. You understood completely. I'm looking... Jean forced an interruption into the statement. Kav was undeterred. I'm looking forward to this. He tucked his head into your neck. Aww. You felt his lashes flutter nose against your skin. Yeah, I can't wait.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah. His words were a whisper you barely heard. It might not even have been that exactly. You might have just been guessing. Kav always had a habit of mumbling. It was okay either way, whether you heard it or only thought you heard. The sentiment was true regardless. Kav would see you tomorrow when he hoped his eyes and the sunlight returned to your hometown of Sunset Bird. You comfortably drifted off to sleep and eagerly awaited seeing Kav tomorrow as well. Ah. Reiki Reiki, rise and shine. Hallöchen, Plüschko. Wochenende. Juhu, geil. Oha, wie sieht Kav denn aus? Update mich. Was ist bisher passiert? Naja, Plüschko, wir sind jetzt im nächsten Kapitel. Also wir sind jetzt in Kapitel 4, ein paar Jahre später wieder. Haben einen kleinen Timeskip gemacht. Ich bin inzwischen wieder, also mit Kav in Sunset Bird, ja. Wir sind hier wieder angekommen. Wir leben inzwischen zusammen in einer Wohnung. Wir sind verlobt. Ja. Und wir besuchen gerade aktuell meine Eltern, weil sie ihren Jahrestag feiern. Und da kommt die ganze Familie nochmal zusammen. Seine Familie, unsere Familie, alles kommt nochmal zusammen. Kav und ich leben an sich noch in Sunset Bird. Liz ist umgezogen. Komplett. Ja, wir sind gerade zu Besuch. Das ist gerade der Anfang. Und ich finde es bisher wirklich angenehm. Wirklich sehr, sehr angenehm. Und weiter ging es doch nicht. Ich bin noch nicht weiter. Knickknack? Nein. Ich bin auch nicht sicher, ob das hier überhaupt implementiert ist. Wir haben hier auf jeden Fall in einem Hotelraum gerade geschlafen. Ich weiß auch, wie gesagt, ich weiß nicht, ob das implementiert ist. Ob Knickknack wirklich implementiert ist. Ich meine, warte, ich guck mal kurz. Warte, Wie ist die Altersfreigabe des Spiels? Weil, wenn es ab 6 ist, glaube ich nicht, dass da irgendwas passiert in der Richtung. Über Diskussion kam ich immer gut auf die Shop-Seite, ne? Jo. Das hier ist es, glaube ich, ne? Derbe Sprache. Also ist es ab 6 freigegeben. Es ist ab 6 Jahre freigegeben. Und das Einzige, was hier steht, ist derbe Sprache. Deshalb, ich glaube, dass es nicht implementiert ist. Okay, und Kaff hat aber nicht wieder so Panik geschoben mit Zusammenschlafen. Nein. Nein. Er hat gerade jetzt, bevor wir jetzt gemeinsam ins Bett gegangen sind, sogar noch einen Witz darüber gemacht. Wer denn jetzt das Bett kriegt. Aber er hat gelacht. Und dann selber schon, ne, gesagt, na komm, können wir nicht zusammen hier in einem Bett schlafen, können wir uns das nicht teilen? Ja. Na, wenigstens etwas, ja. Also er scheint sich auf jeden Fall wohl zu fühlen. Das ist inzwischen sogar das ist im Übrigen der Prolog jetzt zum Epilog gewesen. Dass sich Kaff jetzt wirklich wohl damit fühlt. Er fühlt sich wohl mit uns und mit der gesamten Situation und er hat soweit keine Berührungsängste mehr. Das war so ein bisschen im Vorgeplänkel noch mit drin. Das fand ich schön. Immerhin, immerhin. Your eyes gently opened to see a dim, unfamiliar ceiling. You recalled where you were, a hotel room. Yawning, your muscles felt relaxed and warm enough that sleep threatened to pull you under again. Morning. Kaff's voice brought you back to consciousness. The heat made sense now. You knew the comfortable rage against you was your fiance. Unser Verlobter! Finde ich schön, dass das jetzt auch öfters zum Einsatz kommt. Unser Verlobter. His arm was draped around you, and his fingers were lightly drawing shapes on your pajamas. You twisted over to face him fully. Morning, sleepyhead. Kaff raised an eyebrow. His index finger drew a question mark across your back, pulling a giggle out of you. You knew what I meant. Have you been up long? You hooked your ear around his calf and trailed up to the space behind his knee. He hummed contentedly. Not too long. You squeezed him adoringly in your arms. You snuggled against his chest. Ah, yeah. You played with his hair dozily. Gently you kissed him. You let out a soft breath. You slipped out of bed to start the day. Nein, noch lange nicht. Hier. Juhu! Pushing into him, you squished your face into his chest. The air knocked from Kaff's lungs came out in a light chuckle. Kaff closed his eyes. His hand found the middle of your back again, and he held it there, enjoying the closeness of the moment. Oh, oh shit. Neither of you were making any moves to get up and actually start the day. It was sweet and comfortable to be wrapped up in calf. You could indulge just a little while longer. Eventually, enough time flew by that there really weren't any minutes to spare. There were too many people waiting, so you both crawled out of the sheets together. Standing up, Cuff took a few seconds to stretch. He glanced over at you with an animated expression. I'm really looking forward to your mom's anniversary dinner tonight. It's gonna be fun. I think so too.
I mean...
This whole trip is great, actually. Being here with everybody is like having another chance at being a kid. We can do all the stuff we used to, and all the things we never did but wanted to. Yeah, the world is our oyster, Cuff. Würde ein bisschen zu unserem Sammelwahn mit beitragen hier. Weil wir ja gerne Muscheln sammeln. I do not want to think about being little again. It's good to be back. Sunset Bird won't know what hit it. You not. Yeah, da. Jumping up on the bed, you stood in a power strains in the center. We run the course of our lives. Our lives! Yoo-hoo! We are in control of our destinies. Exactly. Well, we better get back to it, huh? We have got a pretty full schedule ahead of us for your mom's big day. You smirked. So much for being a kid, so many responsibilities. I don't think seeing our friends really counts as responsibilities, Jamie. Fine, you got me there. After that, you and Cuff moved around each other, busily getting dressed and ready for the day. Light laughter and chatter filled the air the entire time. Bags were packed and phones were sought after. You suddenly tossed Cuff his phone when he hadn't been able to find it. You handed Cuff his phone when he hadn't been able to find it. You slapped Cuff's butt as he stepped past you. Yo, so, was? You somehow lost a single sock, but Cuff found it behind the headboard. You shook your head at Cuff when he ran a hand through his hair instead of brushing it. Ja, weißt du was? Why not? Cuff let out a small yelp. You met his eyes with an impish grin, and he shook his head.
Oh.
Careful. Through his shyness, he put himself inches from you. I'm pretty delicate, you know. You raised your hands in playful surrender. His mouth bent into a pleased smile. Aber hier, guck mal, ne? Er geht inzwischen locker damit um. Es funktioniert. Er ist viel entspannter. Finde ich super schön. There was nothing else stopping either of you now. In minutes you were hopping into your ride and heading back to the neighborhood. It was another beautiful summer day in Sunset Bird. Und da kommt gleich die Urlaubsmusik. You couldn't resist rolling the window down, so you could absorb it all during the drive. Cuff sat across the seat from you, near the opposite window. His gaze was locked outside, catching all the odd landmarks the vehicle was passing. Your spirits rose even higher the moment you made it home once more. Eager, you hopped out of the car and let yourself inside. Your moms knew you were going to be there that morning. But the second you made it past the threshold, an excited scream nearly scared you out of your shoes.
Hi.
Jamie, you're here! And guess what? I'm here too! While your heart rate settled, a broad grin quickly took over your whole face. Since your cousin moved out on her own, you'd notice that she really found her own groove. She was still the same loving person she'd always been on the inside, but she expressed herself in new ways. Lee was strong, kind, and smart. Over the past few years, she graduated college with a degree in history. Ach ja, und was du noch nicht weißt, Plüschgor, ich bin ein selbstständiger Künstler und Kaff hat Meeresbiologie studiert. Hey. The last you heard, she was pursuing her dreams, working towards getting into the music industry. Lee! Ja, komm, ne? Whee! Excited, you shouted just as loud as she did. Lee hugged to you tightly, nearly knocking you off your feet. Lee leaned to the side to glance past you and meet Kaff's eye. The grin on her face widened while she raved. Lee ist cute. Oh, finde ich auch. Hat sich richtig gemausert hier, ne? Hi, Kaff. Hey, nice to see you, Lee. I got in practically at dawn. It was a whole thing. But at least I made it here alive. Lee exhaled and slumped her shoulders to emphasize how exhausting the ordeal was. Behind her, Liz made her way over. She crossed her arms at the scene. I'm here too, in case you were wondering. I'm always wondering if you are there somewhere. Nope. I wasn't, but thanks anyway. Yep, nope. The pea popped loudly. You watched Liz lowering stare at your teasing. The demure smile on her face didn't change. You can't just say hello, nice to see you, or you miss me like a normal sibling, can you? Can't you greet us like a normal person, Lizzie? Yes, what a touch crowd. Still the same old Jamie. I'm glad you are home. Another friendly shout rang out in the living room. It was as cheery as it ever was from the many times you'd heard it over the years. Good morning, family. Your parents both came out from the side hall together. Morning.
Well?
Now that everyone is here, I do have a little something to mention. Mom put her hand lovingly over her wife's. Mom leaned her head into Ma's with matching affection. We are all still having dinner together, but Pam here actually made plans to take me out to brunch to celebrate our anniversary. Just the two of us. Wow, Liz sah ja auch mega aus, ja, ne? Ach, Plüschgor! Kaff's Dad, ne? Der gute Cliff, der sieht jünger aus als vorher. Der sieht jünger aus als im letzten Kapitel. Ich glaube, der nimmt Botox. Oder macht ein Lifting. Keine Ahnung, er sieht viel jünger aus als vorher. Unfassbar. Egal welche Creme der nutzt, ich will die auf jeden Fall auch haben. Und die Muttis sehen so alt aus, zumindest von den Haaren. Ja, definitiv. Aber Kaffs Eltern, die sehen noch so jung aus wie vorher. Frisch und jung. Egal was die machen, ich will das Geheimrezept wissen. We are all still having dinner together. Achso, das habe ich schon gelesen. Pleased, she hooked an arm around Ma's waist. Sorry to push you out, but I'm sure this group of major grown-ups will be able to entertain themselves for an afternoon. We don't need to find a babysitter or anything.
Totally.
Yeah, have fun, moms. Don't worry about it. Understood. We will tell you all about your shenanigans at dinner. Shenanigans? Oh Gott, was ist das für ein Wort? Ach, irgendwelcher Blödsinn. Oder Quatsch. Alles klar. Shenanigans. This works out, actually. An afternoon open means there's time to meet up with Terry and Randy. Hopefully they are free today. Your two school friends still lived around the area. They knew you were coming for your mom's party, but when or how you might arrange to see each other wasn't set in stone.
Sounds good.
Definitely, we should call them.
All right.
I have some people I'd like to say hi to as well. Liz had her cell phone in hand, ready to get her plans made before she was even done speaking. Arching an eyebrow, she then directed the next part at Lee. Would you want to come along? We've missed out on a lot of cousin bonding time in the past.
Yeah.
I'd love to. It would be an honor to hang out with you, Liz. And whose fault is that? No fair, Liz meant to go with me. I hope you both have fun. Don't worry, fun is my specialty. Chuckling, Liz smirked. We will try not to have all the fun. Don't get into too much trouble. You shook your head and Liz winked. She then glanced back at her phone and rapidly typed a new text. Excellent, it's settled. She squeezed her wife's hand. Her gaze took in the whole room, ecstatic to have the house full again. Today is going to be perfect.
Yes.
I think so too. I truly couldn't be happier with my wife, my children, and our whole beautiful family. It's already a wonderful anniversary. Oh, so süß. There were awesome and sweet. There were awesome and sweet comments. Das Spiel hat mich durch den PC gehört. Das Spiel hat mich gehört. There were awesome and sweet comments from the group gathered around a couple of the hour. Seeing how your moms were, you couldn't help but hope when you got to be their age that you could be as proud of your life as them. Aww. After that, you enthusiastically began setting up plans to meet up with your friends. They were both able to come see you, having kept their schedules free for this, and you couldn't wait. Kath was also speedily sending text messages, since you conveyed the plans to Terry and Randy. You imagined that he was letting his parents know about what he was gonna be up to. The group continued to chat and catch up until it was time for your mom's brunch and your big meet up with your friends. Soon enough, everyone was out the door looking forward to their fun-filled afternoons and a dinner later that night. Once outside on the neighborhood street, you looked to Kath. He stood at your side with a bent smile. Aww. Terry and Randy were driving into town while you and Kath were traveling on foot to meet them at an easier to reach spot. Man, we really are kids in Sunsetbird again, having to rely on other people who actually have cars to really get anywhere. Now we are stuck walking to whatever is Nörby. So, da haben wir es wieder. Nörby. You nodded. You nodded along in agreement. No, we are reverting back to infancy. We never drive anyway. A snort was followed by the true laughter from Kath. Teasingly, you pouted. This isn't funny, Kath. I don't wanna be a baby again. I didn't realize we were regressing that seriously. He shrugged, then stuck his hands in his pockets. The thought of being little again made you shiver. I couldn't go back to that. I like being me currently.
Me too.
I like current you too. Let's go. You bounced forward several steps and shot Kath a playful look over your shoulder. With that, the two of you began your trip down the old road. It was a casual stroll into town, and before you knew it, you were at one of the large parking lots in Sunset Bird. It was the one that used to have the little crab stall. Remembering the delicious smell, you got lost in thought. The store did well enough that it moved into a full-sized building a couple of years ago now. You'd seen pictures. It was very cute. The parking lot was now just, well, an empty lot that cars could theoretically park in. Not many took the offer. Kath pulled out his phone, texting Terry and Randy in a group chat to let them know you'd made it. Someone just must have answered already because Kath gave you a status update while still staring at the screen. Randy texted, "I can see you." Oh, The blare of a car horn cut you off. You and Kath both turned towards the source of the noise. One of the windows rolled down.
Hey, buddies.
Your friends had arrived, making a spectacle of it as expected. Being the only car meant that they got the pick of the lot, so they pulled to a stop in front of you. War Terry nicht eine Frau? Das klang gerade sehr männlich, ne? Sehr tiefe Stimme. The window closed back up and instead the two front doors popped open. Terry and Miranda stepped out onto the pavement. Hi, Kath. Hi, Jamie. With a cheery wave, Miranda skipped towards you. Terry, on the other hand, walked speedily over to Kath, squeezing him into a hug. A quiet laugh escaped Kath, along with the majority of the air in his lungs. He didn't fight the constriction, but instead gave Terry's back a pat with a large grin spreading across his face. When he let Kath go, Terry came right up to you. He held his fist up for you to bump it. Oh! Okay, das ist gerade ein Plot-Twist, den ich nicht erwartet hätte. Huch! Terry ist trans. Ach, wie interessant. Okay, das ist gerade ein Plot-Twist, den ich nicht erwartet hätte. Huch! Na, huch! Warum wussten wir damals nichts davon? Na gut, wahrscheinlich hätte ich mich mehr in den Freundeskreis einbringen sollen. Aber trotzdem, wow! You hugged him instead? You fist bumped him? You smacked his fist with a high five to make a turkey. Your shoulders gradually began to shake harder while your lips twisted teasingly. Confused, Terry's eyebrows pinched together like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Gobble gobble! You wiggled your fingers, thinking of them as long, colorful tail feathers. Terry snorted the moment the image clicked in his brain. Gobble gobble! Aber dass er immer noch Terry heißt, ne? Dass er den Namen behalten hat. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. Aber ich weiß auch nicht, wie weit er ist, ne? Hat auf jeden Fall keine Oberweite mehr. Terry was currently a full-time lifeguard down at a busier beach a town over. You were proud of him. He'd helped a lot of people in his line of work. Miranda took Cuff's hand and one of yours in the other. Her eyes alight, she gave you both a gentle squeeze.
So great.
I'm so happy to see you again. Hey Terry, hi Miranda. He answered assuredly. It was clear that he was equally glad to see them. This reunion was long awaited. For a while, Miranda had been working hard as an assistant at a school while continuing her own education. She also kept busy running a small online shop, selling crafted knickknacks she made. Same, it's good to see you too. I missed you. It's been forever. You look so cute. You smile. Yeah. You were thrilled to have this impromptu afternoon together. It had been way too long since the four of you last got together like this. Miranda released your hands. Giggling, she eyed you both carefully. So, how have you been?
It's nice.
Things have been nice. Everything is perfect.
That's cool.
I can tell you're sparkling. Standing up straighter, you felt a surge of pride for yourself. You were really happy with where you were in life and where the trajectory seemed like it was taking you. I'm really glad for you. What about you? I'm super. Terry sidled up next to Miranda and put his arm around her shoulder. Sighing dreamily, Randy chuckled up at her boyfriend. Yeah, things have been unbelievable. He pressed his cheek against Miranda's and she let out a light squeak. The sight put an amused grin on your face. Your friends made a wonderful couple. They knew each other well and cared about each other so much. It was no shock at all when you heard the news and they'd started dating. The corner of your mouth curled playfully while you took in the warm welcomes all around. At times, it was still kind of funny how your group of four friends evolved into two couples. Ich wusste, zwischen den beiden würde irgendwas laufen. Ich wusste es. Das habe ich schon im letzten Kapitel gemerkt. Ich hatte ja dieses Gefühl, dass Terry lesbisch sei. Aber dass sie trans ist, gut, so weit habe ich nicht gedacht. Aber gut zu wissen. Not that you were complaining about it. You thought it was an amazing thing. Cuff then pulled his phone out and peeked at the screen. He repeated the motion every so often. You raised a curious eyebrow at his unusual behavior. Cuff was too focused on whatever he was doing to even notice you noticing him, which was ever even stranger.
So...
Is there anything either of you want to do while we are here? Any place you'd wanna see? I'd be up for a lot of things, but actually there's something that I want to do right here. Ah yeah? What's that? Terry poked at Cuff's arm playfully. Miranda met your eye, silently asking if you had any idea what Cuff was talking about. You shrugged. I just wanna see my friends. Ah, huh? Cuff, you're already doing that.
Well...
True, but I could be doing it even more. You, Terry, and Miranda all turned to Cuff with identical, incredulous expressions. His stare moved to a point past you three, and you heard the scrape of sand and gravel underfoot. Someone else stepped into the parking lot. Startled, you jumped at the call of the warm voice shouting over.
Sup, guys and gals?
Wow, Derek, what is happened? Wow, der arbeitet doch im Gym. Sup, guys and girls? Running a hand through his hair, the person who crossed a lot was unmistakably Derek Suarez. He was beaming the whole way. It's been too long, even though it hasn't actually been that long, but long enough. Derek! Wow, I'm so glad you are here. Oh man, hunk alert! You ran over and tugged him. You grabbed onto his arm excitedly. You raved at him. Yeah, oh man, hunk alert! Bashful Derek scratched the back of his head. Well, it is pretty true, but you don't have to say it. I think I do. Someone better report those guns. Oh, warte mal bitte, was? Alles klar. Thanks to all your encouragement, Derek went along with the fun and held his arms up flexing. Oh God. These muscles. Applause broke out among your group, and you whistled, causing a red blush to darken his cheeks.
I missed you.
Aww. He spoke to you gently. You were thrilled just being there, reunited with him. Derek was a good friend of yours, and he had been for a long time. Hey! He waved over at Terry and Miranda pleasantly. Over the years, they all had met several times in passing, simply through being friends with the same people. Sup, big man? Hi, it's great you could come. Cuff put himself next to Derek. Happy, he clapped a hand off his friend's shoulder. Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Of course, thanks for inviting me. Sheepishly, Cuff looked back at you and the others. That's when it clicked in your mind. It wasn't his parents that he was texting earlier. It was Derek the entire time. Aww. Derek is in town for a few months to help my dad and his dad with some work. Yep, I'm working on my own business thing too. But I'm still involved with running this Cuba shop when it's called for.
Very nifty.
Nifty. Oh Gott, warte mal, nifty. Nifty, nifty. Nifty, pifty, schnifty. Was heißt das? Ah, schick. Humming, Derek elbowed Cuff.
So?
But hey, we don't have to stand around here for my sake. What's the plan? Let's hit the town. Eager to get going, everyone piled into Terry's car. The rest of the afternoon was spent visiting spots all over Sunset Bird, logging and reminiscing the whole time. Reminiscing, wie man es auch ausspricht. Once it started to get late, Terry brought you and Cuff back to the neighborhood. You didn't have to work there after all. You didn't get out until promises were made to see each other again before your trip ended. Side by side, you and Cuff stood in the street and waved at the car as it drove away. Terry tapped the horn for 2 honks while Miranda stuck her hand out the window to wave back. You caught Derek in the back window, giving you both a wide grin. Signing as soon as the car turned down another street, they were finally out of sight. Well, that was one party. Time for another. Ready to go see your moms? Of course, it's far too early to hop off the party train. Cuff raised his eyebrows before letting out a hearty laugh. He nodded in the direction of the house.
Come on.
Lead the way, conductor. Choo-choo! Spirits high, you and Cuff crossed the distance to your house. It was almost time for the anniversary dinner. You'd barely stepped over the threshold of the condo before Ma descended, eagerly welcoming you both. The usual greetings were followed by questions and everyone's well-being, after which the conversation moved on to excited chatter about tonight's dinner plans. Cuff excused himself to the restroom to freshen up before being on the move again. Wow! Schick! Uiuiui, schickity-mickity. But when he returned, you were shocked to see he had entirely changed outfits. Aber hallo! Where did that come from? I packed it with me so I could get dressed before the dinner without having to go back to the hotel. Didn't you? Or maybe you have stuff still here at your mom's place. Kav, I hate to break it to you, but no, I definitely didn't do something crazy like that. Huh. But your mom's party, it's at the country club. Yeah, and so are middle-aged folks in Hawaiian shirts. What's your point? It'd be different if they were doing to one of the club's parties, but we are only going for a regular meal. Kav was befuddled by your explanation as you were with his actions. He threw his arms up, desperate for understanding. Ja, aber komm, es ist Jahrestag. Da würde ich auch schick hingehen, ganz egal in was für ein Ambiente. Ich würde mich trotzdem schick anziehen. Allein wegen, ne, wegen dem Moment wegen schon. Dem Anlass.
Seriously?
How can you not dress nicely for a country club? I don't think the Kypress is as special as you've decided it is. You saw Ma, she wasn't in formal clothes and she's one of the guests of honor. Oh Mann, oh! Ich will mich trotzdem schick anziehen. Och Mann, warum sagen wir das? Warum kann ich mich nicht selber entscheiden, was ich ihm sagen will? Ich würde ihn doch nicht dafür verurteilen, das gibt's doch nicht. Alter, gibt's doch nicht, das kann doch wohl nicht wahr sein. Das passiert automatisch, ich kann nicht mal was auswählen. His frown wobbled and his cheeks became far pinker. He looked down at his own self regrettably as he pulled at the cuffed ends of his shirt. He seemed more like a scalded child than a grown man dressed for the latest charity gala. I thought she was gonna get changed while you and me were... Oh man, no. Ma? No way. She needed a whole lot more time than that. Well, it's okay. You look very nice. Oh, Gott sei Dank. Ich kann noch mal rumdrehen wenigstens. You are such a cutie. I love how much of an idiot... Oh! How much of an idiot you are. Alter! Was für Option! You shrugged. No comment needed. What the fuck ist hier los? You patted his arm encouragingly. Okay, ich muss erstmal pipi. Ich glaube, jetzt wird es ein bisschen aufregender hier. Ach du Schande. Ehe ich mir ins Höschen mache, bin gleich wieder da. So. Uffel, Puffel. Ah. Ah. Erstmal den Schockurin aus der Blase gedrückt. Bäh. So, ja, was nehmen wir denn? Also Beleidigung nicht. Also, puh. Ja, also, Letzteres würde ich tatsächlich nehmen. Eher. Einfach so ein bisschen, ne? Courage. Also hier mutig. Ermutigend. So war das. Ermutigend seinen Arm nehmen. Weil das kommt jetzt echt, das kommt jetzt echt falsch rüber. Erst ihn ein bisschen, ne, dafür zur Sau machen, wie er sich angezogen hat quasi. Aber dann trotzdem sagen, ja, such a cutie, you look very nice. Das kommt so falsch. Oh, bleib hier. That earned you a sheepish smile, for he still clearly wished he wasn't in a position to need it. Cuff's eyes stole a glance at the hall, as if he was calculating if he'd have time for another quick change. Unfortunately for him, it was not meant to be. The time to head out came far quicker than you'd expected. Oh. Cliff and Kyra swung by the condo to make sure everything was in order, and for your second surprise, that night Cliff was also in formal clothes. Also ich finde, na, ja, hier, auch in Formal Clothes. Und ich finde, Kyra sieht jetzt auch schon schick aus. Ist jetzt auch nicht gerade informell. Also bitte. Cuff's face excitedly ripped towards yours. At the same time, Cliff went to Kyra's. The two men pointed at one another. See, he knows. Exactly smart. Kyra was talking to me like I was crazy. Wie der Vater, so der Sohn. You and her thought alike in terms of Holden Boy antics. The aforementioned Kyra placed a hand delicately yet dramatically across her eyes. Clifford, our son only knows this because you are the one who raised him. Cliff chuckled, his arm moving to scratch at the back of his neck. Yeah, that's my boy. The ends of Cuff's mouth gently bent up. He truly was his father's kid. In more ways than even he realized. They may be the only ones in the group, potentially the only guests at the entire club. All Geseit, kann man das sagen? Geseit, ist das richtig? Geseit? Wird schon passen. All Geseit up, but at least they could now take solace in one another. That looked to be good enough for them. All the members of your family headed out at the same time to be Cyprus. It was to be a perfect reunion. An impeccably smart host greeted you on arrival, smoothly leading the way to the set of tables reserved for your group. Once you'd all settled in, chosen drinks were you poured into delicate glasses. The food would be coming out later, letting you soak up the atmosphere for a little longer. Smiling, your parents faced the group of familiar faces, all gathered here together to share this special day with them. Mom reached over and took Ma's hand, clasping it between both of hers.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here tonight, gang. Marrying this lady right here is the best thing I've ever done. Aww. And there's no one else I'd want to celebrate that with. Aww. Yes, we're so lucky. Not only do we have each other, but we have got such a large and loving family through all of you. Around you, you heard people saying, "Aww, hey, schon wieder! Schon wieder!" Ich sag doch, das Spiel hört mich. Das Spiel hört mich einfach. And Chuckling appreciatively the comment. Lee had clasped her hands tightly in front of her, her eyes shining. Her eyes met Liz's misty ones, and the affection she had for her mom's carried over to you too. Aww! Oh, so süß! So süß! You returned your attention towards the happy couple just as they leaned into to kiss, smiling all the while. The table responded with cheers and clapping, shouts of happy anniversary, and other congratulations continuing even after they'd broken apart. Mom beamed as she watched Ma giggle dreamily. Then her eyes met yours across the table. And of course, it won't be too much longer before we are celebrating another marriage. Ooh. Das ist richtig. She leaned eagerly over the table towards you and Kav. Your fiance blushed, but he still grinned proudly at the suggestion. Yeah, when is that happening? Ja, Kav, wann ist es soweit? With how long you've known each other, it's a miracle you have had the willpower to hold off on officially trying the knot already. Liz smirked. You'd known that phase since our childhood. It meant trouble. Yeah, wait much longer and I'll start taking bets for real. And when it will happen, I missed my chance with the proposal. The group burst into laughter. Kav, who only stopped pouting long enough to take an angry chug of his drink, did not join in. You lauded along with the others. Embarrassed, you sunk down in your chair. You placed your hand over Kav's in solidarity. You stuck your tongue out at them all. You shrugged. Yeah. Ich würde ehrlich gesagt gerne fragen, ja, Kav, wann ist es soweit? Ich wäre eher mithyped. Ich wäre so voll mithyped. So, ja, Kav, wann heiraten wir endlich? Leider gibt's diese Option hier nicht. Ich werde den Fett mit belagern. Ah ja, aber den hier. The teasing was good-natured, but never failed to rile him up. Unfortunately for him, his guaranteed reactions probably made him a more frequent target of such jokes. Still, you knew it was easy enough for him to bounce back from, especially with a little support from you. Predictably, a smile already began to appear on his face again. The waiters reappeared, delivering delicious plates of food, and the dinner began in earnest. Both conversation and laughter continued to flow freely as the night went on, with the two families realizing the opportunity to be together once more. Eventually, after your hunger and thirst had been fully satisfied, the plates were cleared and the event began to draw to a close. Cliff and Kyra exchanged goodbyes with your family before heading out together. Kav gave his goodbyes to his parents while hanging back until your moms were ready to head off. You were getting a lift back with your moms. It was already late, so you'd discuss the possibility of going straight to the hotel rather than going back to the condo, but Cuff had asked if they'd mind taking him back on the neighborhood, to the neighborhood. He'd wanted to visit it a little longer. Your moms had happily agreed. Liz and Lee were feeling tired, so your mom swung by their hotels during the trip home while you and Cuff made the full journey with them. Riding in the back seat of your mom's car with Cuff felt more than a little nostalgic. As your eyes drifted over to him, his head resting on the window, it was hard to believe how much time had passed. Mom stretched as she got out of the car, smiling over her shoulder as she headed towards the house. Time to put my feet up. You two joining us? Cuff shook his head. No thanks, it's your anniversary. You don't have to entertain me. I like a walk. It's never any trouble to have you over, Cuff.
You alright with that?
Let him do as he pleases, Lanny. But you better not stay out too much later, or there will be trouble. Ma chuckled as Mom waggled a finger, the expression exaggeratedly severe, as she reprised a role that, in truth, she'd never really played. Neither of your parents had been particularly harsh as you'd grown up. Ma joined in the act. Don't go too wild just because there's no school tomorrow. Laughing, they made their way inside, leaving you standing out in the dark street with Cuff. You didn't even need to ask him why. You already had the answer for this. He wasn't yet ready for the day to end. Without a word, Cuff began to stroll down the road. You walked alongside him. You'd known your destination long before you arrived on the dark and utterly deserted beach. There were no lights down here, nothing but the moon and the stars for illumination. The only sounds were the gentle waves rolling in and out, and the soft sound of the footprints you left in the sand. In other words, it was perfect. Cuff stepped out into the waves without a word. He looked up at the sky with a smile, then tucked his head down and began to pull his fancy shirt off. Wow. Hat aber auch eine sexy Body Definition, wa? Wow. Okay. Ja. He tucked it over his head and lopped it backwards, further up the beach and out of the reach of the waves. Wait for me! You followed him to where the waves began to lap at the beach and began to wade out into the water. Cuff slipped his dress pants off and tossed them back in roughly the same direction as his shirt. He was down to just his polka dot boxer briefs. Sometimes you were really struck by the ways in which he was braver than his younger self. This was definitely one of those times. Oh, ist schon wieder romantisch, ne? Oh. He never ever would have done this when you were both living on the street. But you also know he still wouldn't do it with anyone other than someone he spent all those years with. Aww. You took off your shirt so that you could swim. You took off your dress so that you could swim. You decided you didn't care if your clothes go wet. You thought it was so wild that Cuff was going to actually swim right now. Ist ja aber nur andere Klamotte? Ach, einfach ausziehen. Einfach ausziehen und let's go. Ich hoffe, es ist nicht zu kalt. Cuff waded further into the water until it came up to his chest. You unfastened your clothes and left them behind you, just as Cuff had done moments before. You didn't even bother to see where they'd fallen before following him deeper into the sea. Cuff grinned as you approached. I'm gonna be in so much trouble with my moms when we get back.
I guess.
Think fast. He splashed water at you as soon as the words had left his lips, giving you no time to prepare. The splash had caught you full on, leaving you spluttering and drenched. Oh. You splashed him back, you swam away. You're right, nah, here, you splashed him back. Yoo-hoo! Seeing what you were doing, Cuff put his hands up for protection. It was no use, the water washed over him, leaving his hair soaked through. Cuff sighed, then looked at you mournfully. The sudden shift in mood alarmed you, but those worries disappeared as soon as he opened his mouth. We are still not merfolk. The world is cruel. You snickered. After a moment, Cuff's mock sadness broke and he joined in. The two of you wound up, drifting further down along the shoreline, chatting and enjoying the chance to the back on the beach that had provided the backdrop for so much of your childhood. Eventually, a silhouette of structures appeared up ahead. As you drew closer, you realized it was the old playground. Cuff spotted it too and hurried towards it, dragging himself out of the water and heading into the park. Red sand coated his feet and lower legs with every step, clinging tickly enough that it began to resemble a bizarre pair of boots. As you followed him, you wondered how many visitors this little park got these days. There were officially no children living in that neighborhood now. Cuff gazed at his surroundings in wide-eyed awe, wide-eyed awe. He didn't care at all that he was soaking wet and dressed only in his underwear. Crouching, he gently pushed one of the child-sized swing seats, marveling at it all.
Wow.
I can't believe how tiny everything is. Were we seriously small enough to use these? He shook his head, unable to fathom just how little you'd both been when you first met, then walked over to the monkey bars. Once, these had been a challenge for you. Now they were little more than raised hate next to Cuff. Cuff turned his back to the bars and hopped up onto them with ease, sitting on them comfortably. You sat on the bars with him, you leaned against him. Yeah. It was strange seeing adult Cuff juxtaposed, oder wie auch immer das ausgesprochen wird, with the baby playground. But you took your own place on the structure. This place had been something so exciting to Cuff back when he first arrived, and apparently it was to this day. Cuff smiled eagerly as you approached, kicking his feet in the air happily, briefly forgetting the low vantage point until the lip of his toe scraped along the ground. He continued to swing his feet, but with a little more care. You thought it was adorable. In this moment you were home. It just so happened to be the place you'd grown up, but really anywhere you could be with Cuff was that for you. He had held a special place in your heart for so long, and so much for your life had been shared. You'd grown up on the same street, which had given you some common ground, but it went far beyond that. You had both chosen, from a young age, to share your life with each other. You wouldn't have it any other way. Here we are again. Looks like it. The mood had shifted now. The funny impulsive night beach trip with the spike of adrenaline that came from you playing in the water under the moonlight had settled into something quieter and more nostalgic. Cuff leaned back, tilting his head towards the sky to admire the stars above. The dinner was really nice. It was great to do all this. The smile he had when he spoke those words fell as quickly as it had appeared. It went by so fast. We all came out here for the party and it's over. Liz, Lee, our parents, we will all be going back to our own things now. But what else can you do? Except say it's okay? I guess it's part of growing up. This place and these people, they are our foundation. It shaped who we are now, like making castles out of sand. I owe a lot to Sunset Bird. His eyes crinkled fondly, and Cuff's voice was gentle when he spoke again. We had a good childhood, I think. I think so too. We are really lucky. I'll always remember our days here. Wow, you're sounding so old now. Nein, das macht die Stimmung kaputt. You simply shrugged, you silently nodded. Yeah.
Me too.
You! He shook his head, sighing heavily. Alright. His smile took on an uncharacteristic... Oh Gott, was für ein langes Wort. Uncharacteristically harsh twist. You had a feeling where this was going. We better get home before your dumb parents, who don't know anything, get mad. You had to laugh at a half-hearted impression of the Saw kid you'd once encountered in this very park. He chuckled along with you for a moment before tapering off. I hope we don't get grounded. The jokes kept coming. It was very amusing to imagine that not only could your mom somehow ground you as a fully grown and independent adult, but that their powers extended over Cuff as well. As much as you were enjoying being back here, Cuff was right. You had to accept that you needed to go now. It was late, and your moms were still expecting to see you before you got a ride back to the hotel. You and Cuff hopped down from the bars, landing easily with the ground only a short distance below. Before you could return, you had some clothes to retrieve from the beach. You retrod the same path, following the footprints down to the shore you'd left in the sand only a little while earlier. Once you and Cuff had scrounged up your abundant clothes, you started to walk up the old path home, side by side. Droplets of water slipped down your skin and fell onto the road as you made your way back to your mom's house. As you and Cuff were still soaked and sandy from your earlier adventure, it was likely that you were leaving quite a trail in your wake. But you'd seen Cuff's bedroom growing up. It was only natural for him. The air was slightly humid, already pleasantly dense with moisture that felt like a hug as it closed around you. Any dumb footsteps that were left behind would take longer to dry in this weather. The signs of your adventure might even be visible when the sun came up the next day. You hoped so. You quite liked the idea of you and Cuff leaving your mark on your hometown again, even if only for a little while. Despite being soaked through and mostly undressed, the balmy summer night prevented you from feeling any chill. You were entirely comfortable. In truth, you felt warm inside and out. The day had been so lovely spending time with friends and family, and your eyes drifted over to Cuff. Cuff Holden. You're fired. Ooh! just seeing him brought a smile to your face. I love you. I always want to be with you. Kaf, you make me so happy. Oh. You're truly my other half. Oh. We said nothing, simply enjoying this presence. Kaf, you make me so happy. Ja, macht uns wirklich so glücklich. Kaf turned to you, his eyes bright and adoring, and he bit his lip as he smiled shyly. You could tell that your words had touched him. I feel the same way, exactly. He held your gaze a moment longer, looking straight at you as he spoke again.
I love you.
I love you forever. Oh! You enveloped him in a hug. You playfully bumped against him with your side. You kissed him. You reached for his hand. You nodded, pleased with how tonight had played out. Natürlich. You kissed him. Catching him by the hand, you stopped Kaf in his tracks and pulled him close. Your heart somersaulted as your lips met. Wird schon passen. At this moment, with the quiet seaside town at rest, it felt like it was just the two of you in the world. Kaf returned the kiss, gently cradling your head with his hand until you broke apart. You were full of joy, all other concerns, and the day-to-day stresses of normal life were squeezed out by it. All you could think in that moment was how your life was wonderful. Every second and every day needed to end sometime, and that time had nearly come for tonight. You had to get at least some rest and bring it all to a close. And so, the two of you went inside to say goodnight to your moms, as well as clean yourselves up as best as you could. Your moms, both in pajamas, ready for their own sleep, hooted with laughter as you came inside, disheveled and damp, and their teasing continued until the car came to get you to the hotel. Kaf stayed silent as he put his casual clothes on again. Placing the formal ones back in the bag, he brought them in. You'd given Mom and Ma plenty of material for a mock scolding, and you got a playful lecture about not getting into the water without bothering to change first. You just grinned at your partner in crime, feeling like a naughty kid again. It had been worth it. Definitive. By the time you and Kaf finally direct yourselves in your hotel room for the night, the sky had been dark for some time and the lonely hotel hallways were quiet. The late hour made you feel a sense of fulfillment. You really were making the most of your trip. It was such an odd thought that it was almost over. It has settled into this new routine naturally. All the familiar streets and faces made everything easy to get used to. The two of you drowsily shuffled past an ice machine and into your room. Kaf set his phone on his bedside table and you followed suit. You both started settling in for the night. The hotel room was a welcome sight after your long day. You noticed Kaf rub the back on of his neck and yawn. His voice was quiet and distant. I hope the pet sitter is doing good. The wish wasn't exactly directed to you. It was just a sleepy thought that Cuff had unleashed up in the world at large, but you still agreed. I hope so. That sitter is watching some of the best animals on the planet. Cuff still kept fish after all these years. Delightful. Colorful things in huge aquariums. He spent a lot of time when he wanted to relax just watching them swim. Though they weren't just his. The two of you were raising them together in the place you shared. Of course, with you both gone, the fish had needed someone to take care of them. Cuff asked one of your responsible neighbors to handle the job. We were glad to have a decent pet sitter. Cuff wasn't the only one who loved those fish. Cuff's anxiety about leaving them hadn't subsided. Over the vacation, you had caught him a few minutes texting the pet sitter and asking about his fish. It will be okay. Cuff turned his head to you, the nervousness still coming off despite his exhaustion. Remember, you gave that pet sitter such an in-depth fish orientation that they knew all of their names. And most of the fish are practically identical. Cuff nodded, instantly lighter. You nodded in satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Cuff yawned widely. He seemed confused at the magnitude of it. He groggily blinked at you. I think it's time for bed. That is a great thought. You yawned and then raised an eyebrow at Cuff for making your catches. He gave a little smile, but then ended up yawning again. I think so too. The two of you got changed and brushed your teeth. In no time at all, both of you were cozy and ready to sleep. After that, you flopped onto your side on the shared bed. Cuff headed over to his side and you felt the mattress dip under his weight. You tucked yourself under the covers and Cuff snuggled in closer to the middle. You turned on your side to face him and scooted slightly closer. Ooh. Your noses almost touched, and Cuff watched you with a soft expression on his face. Oh, Gott, war so schön. Cuff gently spoke, his words like a lullaby.
Good night.
Good night, Jamie. You have a good night too. Cuff's eye fluttered shut and he let out a contented sigh. There was a warmth from Cuff's body next to you. He was right there. His presence was comforting, perfect for lulling you to sleep. His presence was alluring. You really wanted your hands on him. Ich muss alluring übersetzen, aber der zweite Satz gibt mir schon einen Hint. Ja, gut, ja. Okay. Ich muss es halt wissen, ob das geht. Ich muss wissen. Auch wenn das Spiel halt, naja, nicht so hoch von der Altersbeschränkung ist. Aber ich muss wissen, wie weit es geht. Your hand drifted over to Cuff's and you run your fingers up his arm, across his shoulder, and finally to his face. Cuff trembled at the gesture. You cradled his cheek and his eyes opened slightly to peek at you, unsure. Are you tired? Ooh! As nice as it was to be near him, you understood he might not be in the mood. You wouldn't mind if you both just went to sleep instead. Cuff mumbled into the hotel blanket.
I mean...
I mean, not anymore. Ooh. Your eyebrows lifted. He flushed as growing excitement replaced any previously held plans to rest. You leaned forward and lightly kissed his lips. He pecked you back affectionately. You could feel his smile in his affection. He rolled slightly so that he was fully on his side and had a better range of motion. With the new freedom of his arm, he reached over to stroke the back of your head. When the first kiss ended, you immediately started another, and then another. Cuff stopped running his fingers down your hair and held your head closer. Oh, God! Woo! You broke apart satisfied. You kept going. You kissed him deeply. You grabbed onto his shirt. Woo! You hooked your legs around him. Oh! You kissed down his neck. You grabbed his butt. You nipped on his ear. You pressed your foreheads together affectionately. Also, wenn jetzt ein Rückzieher kommt, bin ich ein bisschen enttäuscht. Okay, ich hoffe, ich kann wieder mehreres auswählen. You kissed him deeply. You snaked your arms around Cuff and pulled him as close to you as you could. You severed the heat of his body against you. Ah! You pressed into Cuff as long as you could manage before needing air. He responded just as desperately. You grabbed onto his shirt. You tugged and pulled at Cuff's soft pajamas. It stretched under your fingers. Cuff started to run a hand through your hair again, sweetly cutting through the strands. It was a never-ending reassurance that he was here and he cared about you. You kissed down his neck. You bent over Cuff. The covers wrapping around you and kissed all the way across the side of his neck. Cuff squirmed under your touch and made a new pleased noise with every touch. You hooked your legs around him. Whee! You tangled your legs across Cuff. You needed to get even closer. He twisted his arms around your back and kissed the corner of your mouth. Ah. Was heißt affectionately? Kurz übersetzt. Ah, zärtlich. Stimmt, hatte ich doch eigentlich schon das Wort. Hieß dabei. Nippelt. Nippelt nur noch kurz hier. Ah, oh, anknabbern. Okay. Na dann. Oh. You pressed your chest against his and toyed with his earlobe, peppering it with soft little bites. Cuff spoke bravely, inaudible words against the crook of your neck. You grabbed his butt. You slid your hand down his back, lingering and caressing as you pleased. However, your touch had purpose, and you kept going until you grabbed his butt. A shiver went through him, and he gripped your pajamas harder. You smiled at the curve of his lips. Oh, kann ich alles machen? Hallöchen, Lady Edelstein. Ungefähr ab... Oh. Ungefähr ab 23 Uhr, wollte ich gerade sagen. Ist ja schon wieder so weit. Wenn der nächste Tag hier anfängt im Spiel. Wir sind schon in der Nacht. Ich bin gerade dabei, mit meinem Boyfriend zu fummeln. Das heißt, wir dürften bald am nächsten Tag sein. Dürfte gleich losgehen. You pressed your foreheads together affectionately. Calf happily looked back at you before he bent his torso so that he was in a position more over you. He kissed you and ran his tongue along the bottom of your lip. You kissed him back eagerly, encouraged further. Calf twisted his head towards his pillow and squished his face into it, letting out a sigh. You smiled and you snuggled up against him, both of you starting to settle from the heated moment. Calf's face remained pressed to the pillow, and you watched his chest rise and fall visibly with his deep inhales. But his arms stayed around you, holding you close. Ah. When his breathing slowed, he shifted back over and met your eyes. Hätte ich nicht sagen sollen. Ich glaube, Lady Edelstein, es wäre besser gewesen. Dann hätte ich die Zeit noch mehr verpasst. Cuff nuzzled his cheek against you lovingly and whispered, "We really shouldn't stay up all night, huh?" You accepted Cuff's judgment. He was right. You both needed sleep for tomorrow. Nein! Och komm schon! Och Mann! You curled up comfortably in each other's arms, ready to actually settle down for the night. Ach komm! Na gut. Ich war so nah dran! So nah dran! Cuff fühlt sich inzwischen schon so wohl damit. Und dann einfach schlafen. Na super. Darauf war ich nicht vorbereitet. Your eyes fell closed sometime after. You were not sure exactly when, only the fact that they were now too heavy to open. You felt a mixture of bitter and sweet emotions. You were happy to be here, but sad it was ending. Ja, ist wirklich so. Ist so, als würde man mir so ein ganz kleinen Tropfen Nougatstück geben, so, wo ich mal kurz dran nippen kann. Aber die ganze Nougatstange kriege ich nicht. Voll gemein. There was relief that you would soon be in your own home again, but also wondering when you could return here. There were many more feelings swirling around in your head that hadn't even crystallized into thoughts yet. Paradoxically, you felt nice but also confused, but then also nice from the confusion. In the back of your mind, you realized that you really must be tired. Unsurprisingly, your exhaustion did not give you too much time to muse on your emotions, and in what felt like seconds, you were already dreaming. Was? Redest du jetzt von Scheiße? Hä? Nein. Hä? Wieso Scheiße? Wieso? Was? Nein. The dreams dancing around your head became fragmented and faded until you couldn't remember a thing about them at all. You were growing more aware of the real world. Wegen Nougatstange. Ach, du bist doch eklig. Du bist eklig. Aber ich verstehe nicht, wie du so sein kannst. Dabei bin ich immer so nett und so uneklig. Ich habe überhaupt nichts mit Ekel am Hut oder so. Verstehe ich nicht, woher das bei dir kommt. Ich bin eklig. You woke up on your own. The alarm cuff was gently waking you. Ah. Aber jetzt ist der nächste Tag, ne? Ich spule mal ein bisschen zurück. So, ich speichere mal an der Stelle. Dann machen wir morgen weiter mit dem nächsten Tag. Juhu. Schön. Das kommt von dir. Das stimmt ja gar nicht, Lady Edelstein. Das stimmt ja nicht. Das ist gelogen. Stuck und erlogen. Nur weil ich mir schöne Rezepte ausdenke, wie den norwegischen Burrito oder die schöne 4-Jahreszeiten-Pizza. Oder weil ich weiß, wo die Pralinen auf dem Hotelkissen herkommen. Das ist schon gemein. Nur weil ich so ein schönes 5-Sterne-Kochwissen habe, werde ich verurteilt. So, okay. Quit. Are you sure? No. But yes.